Now, the next thing I want to show you before we get into working our problems is a very, probably the most important property in algebra that you need to learn as far as a theorem. It's called the distributive property. The distributive property. It's so important, I'm actually going to write this down. Distributive property. It's probably the most important thing, one of the most important things you need to know. And so I'm going to write it down for you like that. Now, what it basically tells you is, if you have something, I'm going to represent it by A. It could be anything. It could be a number, it could be a letter. And you open a parenthesis and you have something, B plus C on the inside here, let's say. Then the way this works is, and you'll see it in your algebra textbook, you multiply A times B, but then you add to it A times C. So you're basically taking the A and you're distributing it into this term and then into this term, getting these little terms here that you multiply, but then you add them together because you got a plus sign here. If you had a minus sign inside, it would behave just like you'd think. B minus C, let's say. It would be A times B minus B times C. So again, A times B and then A times C, but it's a negative sign, so you have a negative right there. This is something you're just going to have to remember, but let me show you really why it works. Let's think about numbers for a second. If I have 3 and I open a parenthesis and I put 4 plus 2, how would you evaluate that in terms of order of operations? You would do what I've told you to do. You would go on the inside here and you would say, okay, 4 plus 2 is 6. That's the inside of the parentheses. And then 6 times 3 is going to give me 18. That's the answer. And that is the answer. But what I'm telling you is anytime you have something sitting outside of a parentheses multiplied by something inside, when you have terms that are added together, you need to, or you can, multiply 3 times 4 and then multiply 3 times 2 and add them together. So what you would get then is you would have 3 times 4 from this multiplication plus 3 times 2. And so when you do this, 3 times 4 is 12 plus 3 times 2 is 6, and you're going to get 18. So you get the same answer in both cases, and that's just really proving to you that it works. If you evaluate it in terms of order of operations, you get the answer, but it's exactly the same thing as taking the outside number and distributing it in. It could be a letter, could be anything out here, but you have to distribute it into each term individually. The distributive property is used so much in algebra that you're probably going to forget that it's even a property after a while. You're going to use it almost in every problem because you almost always have something multiplied by something else.